Welcome to the latest edition of the Showbox Sires series on the evolution of the great cow, where we introduce our next bulls coming up in our Showbox Sire program. Today, we're excited to have several guests on to talk about our newest release, Red and White Bull, 744 HO 17701, Maples Miraculous Red. And we'll tell a little story about why we named him Miraculous, Mike. You remember some of those details, but we wanted to get people on, as we always do with this podcast series, that will help customers and breeders around the world understand how to use the bulls. So we're thrilled today to have Justin Velthuis from Ontario, one of the co-breeders of Maple. And Justin's going to join us for this conversation. And then Adam Hodgins from Hodglynn Dairy, also from Ontario, who was really the person that put the first development phases of Maple's life together. So both high-end breeders, high-end respected folks from the business. And as always, we've got Mike Duckett, our partner in Showbox Sires, to lead our discussion. So guys, welcome to this podcast. And Mike, I'll let you take it away.
As Tim said, welcome to the podcast, Adam and Justin. I'll start with you, Justin. As you were co-breeder of Maple, tell us kind of how you got involved and how it's become that you were the co-breeder and cow family that sort of behind her, and how this all came about.
Thanks for having me on, Mike and Tim. The Maple story starts with the 4-H judging contest at the Lindsay Fairgrounds a couple days before the prestigious summer show. And she was one of the cows in a 2-year-old class there, not clipped and half full of milk. I thought she was pretty special. And when I went to the barn to see her after the contest, Simone had already, and the Blondin team had already asked about her. So she ended up being purchased in partnership with the team at Blondin. They did a really good job with her, and she was third at the Royal that year in the black and white show, and was second in the red and whites at Madison that year. She has a really cool pedigree that had some Eastern Ontario cows in it. Her dam I was familiar with, was intermediate champion in 2013 at the Royal. So I really like the cow family. I like the cow. Blondin was able to develop the cow into a really good show cow in her own right. Unstoppable was my bull. We wanted to use that semen early on, and we bred Maple, and she was sold with the resulting pregnancy in her being Maple.
I remember that cow selling, and that's where I think where Adam got involved. Adam's always been very sharp at buying stuff that can make money. And Adam, Maple was probably one of the, if not one of the greatest red cows we've ever seen. Can you tell us a bit about the cow?
We kind of got her a little bit by luck, like Jay Velt said. We bought her pregnant in the dam there, and Maple was always a standout right from when she was a calf. Actually, when we purchased the cow, we brought the cow home, and she was due towards September, the memory cow there. So we thought maybe might be a good idea to send her to Wisconsin to have her closer to Madison, just in case she calved in really well. So we'd send her to Mark Reith's there. And when Maple was born, he sent me a picture of the calf, and he just said, the legs and the ears on her and the wide rump and that. And he was going on about her, and she was just always a standout. But when we brought her home after, I think it was close to December. We brought her home as baby calf, and I got her home, and she had some wow features. She was long in her head, long in her neck, long in her rump structure, deep in her rib. She was a real standout, wide rumped, and you knew right from then she was a special individual. So,
Adam, you've been involved with the family now for many years and several generations, as you mentioned. You still have the old Armani at your place, do you?
We do. She's continuously on a flush program or IVF program. She's she took a slight break for a while. She needed a little break, but she's been working again here recently. And she was a great cow, like just a tremendous dairy cow, lots of capacity, great milk cow, almost just a little different than a lot of red cows, just a little dairy or a little milkier. And that come from the The Grand Dam was actually, I got the chance to milk her just, maybe it was a few days, maybe it was a week. I don't remember because it's quite a few years ago. But when she was heading to Madison, she came here as a young cow, and the year she went to Madison, that'd be the year that she was intermediate champion at the Royal, and Barkley brought her up, and John Buckley, I believe. Tremendous dairy cow, like so refined, so dairy. I would say kind of ahead of her time in the red breed a little bit, So anyway, maybe she just probably at that time down in Madison, she was just a little too refined compared to a lot of the red cows, But she's really transmitted that into her offspring.
You talked about some of Maple's features, and the old Shaquille, she had those too, didn't she?
She did. She did. She was a wicked dairy cow, and just she did. Yeah.
Justin, obviously your name is synonymous with successful breeding program. You're the breeder of Unstoppable, one of the truly great sires in the industry. What's it done for your program, breeding a cow like Maple, breeding a bull like Unstoppable? Tell us a little bit about your current operation, what this cow family and this pedigree has done for you.
Obviously, with Maple being sold as a pregnancy, I don't have a ton to do with Maple, but her being an Unstoppable, that did a lot for helping Unstoppable, and a testament to how good the Unstoppables could be if you really nailed the mating and did everything right on the care side like Adam was doing. I think on the Maple family, in Adam's last sale, I bought a granddaughter of Maple. We talked about the Shaquille and the Armani. I really do think that's a great maternal line. And actually, Adam just had a daughter of her that won her class at the Royal. I do think that is a family still going. I don't think Maple was a freak of nature by any means. I think that there'd be a true breeding family.
Well, good point. And Adam, let's go back to you just for a second. You've got several sisters to Maple and members of the family. Tell us what you've got around there. I don't think people realize how good the family's breeding with high scoring young cows.
We actually don't have that many milking daughters currently. We just calved in a really nice altitude sister to Maple, and we've got another Unstoppable coming. We've got several younger heifers, but it's been such a marketable, valuable family that we have sold quite a few daughters and sisters and that. So they've sold tremendously well, but they've gone on and it's a great uddered cow family, and they all milk very well. Like, they're very high producing cows, but I trying to think, I don't think any of them are scored under very good at this point and scoring very, very well. We've got a really nice, awesome direct daughter of Maple that's just calved in for the second time. She was an 87.2-year-old, and she looks, actually, she's the mother of the calf that Jay Velt was just talking about that he purchased in our sale. And I think she's going to breed really, really well. Yeah, no, we've got quite a few, like I said, a really nice altitude fresh, and then there's a few more Unstoppables coming on in that. But and then we'd sold some alpha bred heifers and that in our sales. So the family's continuing to do a lot of good for us. So, and I think now we're at the point where we're keeping a few of them, and we want to build up the family a little bit and try and get a little branch or a bigger branch going for ourselves, So the markets were so strong there with Maple doing what she's done. It was hard to hold on to them because the prices were so high.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mike and I have some experience with that, Adam.
I think
we both owned a high priced daughter of Maple, our sister to Maple, right?
Yeah. They were.
But that's the thing about a cow like Maple, though. We bought the one there at Nashville that year, us and Elmview, and they make money. Yeah, they were expensive to buy, but good cows make money. That's the thing about them is, and Adam, I mean, you've worked with as many a good cows as anybody. With Maple, what made her special to you?
I knew she was a special heifer. She was a special heifer, and the best thing that probably happened to us was we don't really show heifers, because if we showed heifers and did a good job with her as a show heifer, we wouldn't own her anymore. And then we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, because I'm not going to say she was extreme, but she was so long, so eye-catching, deep in her forearm, wide all the way through. Beautiful feet and legs. But when she calved in, we knew she was good as a heifer, and we calved her in, and she looked tremendous underneath. She just looked amazing underneath. So we calved her young because in my mind, to have a really, really good milking yearling, they seem to need to calve in about June. So we calved her in June as a milking yearling. And when she was uttering up, I was just one of those heifers you just couldn't take your eyes off of, And then when she calved in, her udder was just wow. Like it just every day it came and came. We knew we had an extremely, extremely special one. She had an udder that was just welded on everywhere, fore and rear udder, beautiful teeth placement, and the venation on it was just incredible. And when we took her to that, Barkley had that COVID show there, and actually we took her to two. The first one she wasn't just quite there yet. The summer show, she had a little swelling in her udder, and she wasn't quite there yet. And actually, she ended up second there. But then we took her to the fall show, and she was lights out. And I knew at that point she was probably the best young cow we'd ever had. She was so stylish and so complete in the ring, and her udder just was wow. Anyway, but then when we calved her back in, we bred her, got her pregnant, bred her back, and then the rest calved her in as a senior 2-year-old, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, I remember seeing those pictures. I'm pretty sure Joel showed her that year at the.
That's right. I've got one in my office, and to be honest with you, you'll hear guys say, well, maybe she's almost as good as Maple was. And you go and look at the picture, and she was just, I don't know if I've seen a milking yearling like her yet.
I would say your phone was ringing quite a bit after that show, because I'm pretty sure I sent you a message or two. And
yeah.
But no, those special cows don't come around very often.
They're hard to sell, and we're glad she went to a great spot like Kevin and Lindsay's there, because they got her to where she went, and the cow family's made us a lot of money and continues to.
Justin, I know you've looked at this bull's profile and stuff, looking at his traits and stuff. How do you think this bull will transmit?
I really like the alphas I've seen, and we've seen some milking alphas. But the problem with a red carrier bull is you're only going to get red 50% of the time. So I think there's a real demand in the marketplace for a red alpha son. So that's where I think Miraculous is really cool. And then looking at his numbers, you only show them a handful of days in the year. You got to milk them the other 360 some days of the year. I like the DPR numbers on them. I like the foot angle numbers. You look at all the feet and legs numbers there. The feet numbers are very good and correct. That matters. I think it's a big problem in a lot of these freestalls, the hoof health. So I think having proper foot angle numbers really helps them. There'd be moderate stature, and of course the alpha blood and the Maple family either have a tremendous udder, really good attachments. He's over 3 on rear udder height, really good rear udder numbers. I think you'd get a moderate stature, really good uddered animal with good feet and legs using Miraculous. And I definitely think there's a place in the breed for this. Looking at the sire stack, I think Alpha, with all the process of McCutcheon in it, or through the alligator, I think the cow family, with all the capacity in its rib and strength, with the Armani and the Shaquille, I think this cross makes a lot of sense.
Justin, I agree with you totally. And if you're a guy that's going to sit down and sort bulls and try to look for a bull that's going to be at top of some list, this bull's not going to show up. But if you think about how great his mother was, and if you think about the bulls in the pedigree being, we're talking some bulls that go way back in age with Armani and Shaquille and all that, you wouldn't expect the paper to get to the top of the charts. But if you look at the important traits that we need to concentrate on now and especially in the red breed, he's moderate stature. He's got great fertility, fat and protein, and all of his individual traits. I think this bull does have a place in this business to make a great cow. Adam, how would you use this bull? Is there certain crosses you think, you've been?
I just like, as Justin and you've both talked about, like the the alpha blood in there. I think he'll shrink them down a little bit, get them a little more to a moderate size, and the DPR is positive. DPR is a huge bonus. I think in our herd, we have quite a few altitudes because at the time he was fairly popular Red Bull to use or to get the nice red cows, and some of them are a little on the taller side in that, and I think he can really help correct that, with some positive DPR and lower stature and good fat and proteins. Because I do think the alphas are turning out to be quite nice, and I think this will work.
There's actually quite a buzz, guys, from either Justin or Adam about alpha now. He kind of went through that phase like all bulls do. Are the heifers good enough? Whatever. But alpha's been a bull that on paper looked like he was going to be a better cow bull than he was heifer bull anyway.
We're actually milking an alpha, and she's a really good cow. She's kind of, as we taught, a little lower statured cow, a great rear udder, and I think, and like I said, the calves are better than maybe at first I was thinking. I wasn't as super excited about our alpha calves, but when we got a few of them clipped up, he was probably making them a little more how they should be, with a little lower stature and square and depth of rib and that. So anyway, so I think probably he's a great cross on the maple cow.
I'd agree with that. There was a couple at the Royal milking alphas. Really nice shape to the udder. A lot of whip to the top of the rear udders. A lot of quality and definition of their median suspensory. Like, if first milking alphas are any indication, I think he's going to be a good udder bull. I only have red heifers are my oldest alphas, and they're square heifers, and we'll see what they calve like. But the first ones I've seen at shows, they have nice udders, so...
There couldn't be too many of them fresh just yet, and there were 2 or 3 at the Royal that did very well. I think one won in the reds, and one was third in the blacks.
I think actually full sisters. I think, yeah.
So I think he's off to a good start.
One of the reasons we're so excited about him, you guys have brought it up, Mike. We got to tell this story for our listeners, and sorry to Jay Velt and Adam, you're going to have to listen to it, but. The reason the bull's named Miraculous is because truly he is miraculous. We wanted to name him Miracle, and Select already had a Miracle. But the story behind how this bull was made, Sharon and I acquired part of Maple soon after the Royal, when she was grand at the Royal. Actually, you and Paul Trapp judged that year, didn't you, Mike?
Yep.
We bought her, and then about 10 days later, she had an intestinal blockage and died. There were some pretty long faces around. But we kind of kept our thoughts together, and we were smart enough to harvest her ovaries. Luckily, our friends at Transova, Kayla Umble, got in a car and drove to Ohio and got the ovaries. We got them to Transova, and at that point, I called Mike and said, "Do you have any recips at Genetic Futures?" And he happened to. So he had a whole bunch of recips for us, and at that time, I didn't know what the heck to breed the cow to. We had one shot on goal. So we threw Alpha because he was popular and Red Factor, and we threw Lambda in the dish. It must be the Alpha swam faster because that's what the calf ended up being. And to think that he's red on top of it. But Mike, tell the story of the incubator. Once we got Maple had quite a few oocytes. I think she had 35 oocytes that day that we harvested him. And there were a bunch getting fertilized, but you tell the story from there, Mike.
I get the call from Tim, and it was on a Sunday, and it didn't really line up for us to have recips. So I call our crew and say, "Hey, watch for heats." It's at the time we didn't really want to say what was going on to anyone. So I said, just watch for heats. And when we started gathering heats, and we got up to 10, 12 heats, I think, and I get the text from Kayla from Transova, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but there are quite a few embryos that were fertilizing. And they send these embryos, and they get to Chicago, and that's where they stayed. We got the embryos exactly a full day later than we should have received them. Incubator, it had lost the power, and the temperature was going down, and it was below what it should have been when it got there. There was 3 really low quality embryos that were still viable, and we transferred them thinking there's no way in the world there's going to be anything, and we did get one, and this is him. Unfortunately, it's the only one, but at least it was something, and we're going to have him to use. So a bad deal, at least we ended up with something.
It's quite a story. Still gives me goosebumps to think about all the ingredients that took us from Maple's death to having this bull ready to release. You know, guys, it's quite a story. So maybe he is destined for greatness. But we thought our listeners would enjoy that story. So to wrap this up, guys, it's been a great discussion. We're at Showbox Sires. We're so pumped about this bull because both the guys have talked about the fertility being plus on DPR, being plus 2.2 on HCR. You know, as Mike said, he doesn't not going to get on any TPI or LPI list, but if you breed cattle and you look at what he does it well. I'm going back to you two guys one more time. Jay Velt, would you like to give our listeners one set of final thoughts?
The early alphas are impressive. We all know what Maple did. Big fan of what Showbox is doing. I think this one could be a hit. See all you guys in Nashville start of December.
You are amazing, Jay Velt. I think we're going to keep all that little snippet of information because you promoted everything that Mike and I do to try to make money. So thank you. Adam, I know you've had a long week. You had a great Royal. I appreciate you being on. Mike and I knew it was going to be tough, but thanks. Give us your final thoughts on what this bull could mean.
Oh, that's great. Jay Velt's a tough act to follow there, but I really think he could be a special bull. You know, Maple's had a huge impact. The Maple family's had a huge impact in our herd and is going to continue to have an impact in our herd. And I think this bull, I really don't hear any complaints from anyone who has any Maple family or Memory family in their herd. They're doing nothing but great things. And I think this is a bull that, as we've discussed, it's hard to find a bull that lowers stature and makes red calves. And I think he's a bull that can really add a lot to the red breed.
Good. Mike, any thoughts from you that we haven't covered yet?
For us, it's exciting to add a bull that has all the things that could make great cows down the road, and be red is just the bonus. So thanks for being on, Adam and Justin, and we'll look forward to seeing what happens.
And closing, again, we thank you two gentlemen for being on with us, both master breeders, master caretakers of cattle, and enthusiasts. We're thrilled to have you part of Showbox Sires. We appreciate it. But as we wrap up the discussion on Miraculous Red 17701, I leave you with the thought of think about all the warriors and altitudes there are in the world that maybe you could bring their stature down a touch and like them even better. Maybe you could breed a little more fertility into them. And I just think this bull is tailor-made. I think the time is right. And I think the cross can be wonderful. So we've got this bull ready to release. He is through our Select Sires Showbox program. He is available. As I've said earlier, the Select Sires team's done a great job getting semen on this bull. He's about 13 months old, and we already have conventional and sex semen in the can ready to go. So you can make your September calves here later this month. You can get semen from your Select Sires representative ASAP. So we thank Adam Hodgins and Justin Velthuis for joining us today with Mike Duckett in our discussion about 744 HO 17701 Maples Miraculous Red.